What's up, guys? It's Celeste, and today I'm going to be talking about some of my personal transition goals as a non-binary person. I actually started trying to make this video a couple of weeks ago, but I was trying to do like all my transition goals, including social and physical, and it got to be a little bit too long, and honestly, some of the stuff that I wanted to cover in it, I'm not sure I'm quite ready to talk about yet. So, I decided to kind of split this into two parts. So this is going to be social transition, and basically what I want to do is just like go through a list of some of the main transition, like aspects of transition, and just talk about which things I do and don't plan to do anything about. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is gender marker, and that's basically just on legal documents and identification and things like that, where it says what your gender is. My gender marker is currently female on everything because that's what I was assigned at birth and I haven't changed it. And I don't have any reason to change it at this time because right now the only things that you can choose from are male and female. And I don't like having it say female because I'm not female and I don't really like being labeled that way. But I don't think that male would make me feel any better about that because I also don't identify as male. There are non-binary people who do change their gender marker to either male or female, depending on what their assigned gender was. Some of the reasons for that are, for one thing, some people feel like it matches their expression more, so it's a better indicator for identification and basically how they want to present to the world. Another reason is because they more strongly identify with one gender or the other. Even if they are non-binary, they might feel closer to one of these choices than the other. So people might choose to have their gender marker say male because out of the two, it's the closer one that they feel fits them. And another reason is I've seen some people say that just changing their gender marker to something other than what they were assigned at birth is a liberating experience for them, that even though they're not changing it to something that is their ideal label, just the act of getting away from what they feel was placed upon them is a good feeling and something that they feel is like a part of their transition that is important to them. But again, none of this really fits me exactly. I don't feel like a gender marker of male would really benefit me in any way. But I think that things are moving in a direction where neutral gender markers are going to be available eventually, because there was a case this past summer in Oregon where somebody was able to get the courts to basically agree that they have a right to legally have their gender be non-binary. Unfortunately, because this is such a new thing, systems like the DMV and other legal systems like that they're not really able to accommodate for neutral gender. So even though this person is legally, in a way, marked as neutral, there's not really that much right now in place to allow for that. And that goes for state as well as federal identification, like passports, you have to be male or female. So I think that indicates that things are moving in that direction. So eventually, hopefully, that will be an option. But since it's not right now, there's not really any reason for me to change it. I think ideally they should just get rid of gender markers, personally. I don't really see what the point of them is. They seem kind of like not really that useful in terms of identification most legal documentation. I don't see why it's at all relevant what your gender is. Definitely for identification, it seems like things like your height or your picture or things like that would be a lot more useful than your gender, because gender can vary so much, and gender presentation and expression can vary so much, and it just seems kind of not really that helpful in the grand scheme of things. But I'm not in charge of that, unfortunately. So like I said, until they change it so you can either not have a gender or choose a neutral gender, I'm sticking with female just because there's not really anything better out there. The next thing I'm going to talk about is name, because a lot of trans people change their names when they transition, because a lot of names in our society, and I'm speaking mostly of Western society, although I think this is fairly common across other cultures, there are different names for different genders. So like there are feminine considered names and masculine considered names. And it's kind of silly because what is considered masculine or feminine often changes over time. Like there are a lot of female names that originally started as male names, like Ashley, Leslie, Carol, Allison, like lots of really common female names started out as male names. So I can't say that that probably works the other way around too much, but I think it kind of shows how arbitrary these things are and how like transient they are, because you know, from one decade to the next, it could change a lot. But my name is Celeste, and I don't personally feel like that's a super gendered name, even though it is usually given to people assigned female. I don't think it's very common as a male name, but again, I'm not male, so I don't feel like I need a masculine name. I feel like I would like a sort of neutral name, and I don't really know how other people see the name Celeste. I guess some people probably think it's very feminine, but I don't really, and maybe that's because I'm neutral myself, and I don't really know that many other Celestes. I've very rarely known any other Celestes. I don't think I've actually known any. I've like met some or come across some, but I've never had like a strong association with the name to anyone else other than myself. So when I think of that name, it doesn't sound like gendered to me. It just sounds like me. So I don't know if that's one of the reasons why I feel like it's sort of neutral, but I also have kind of a history of having to come to like my name, because when I was younger, I really didn't like it at all. I went through this whole phase when I was in elementary school where basically every year I would change my name several times. Like I can't even remember how long I did this for with each name. It was probably like a few weeks or months for each one, but I had a different name all the time. I didn't really get that far away from Celeste. I was like Celly, Celestina, Celeste Marie, which is my middle name, and things like that. I think the farthest I got from it was Chelsea and Chloe, and things like that, but I never went like totally outside of like the basic sounds and letters of Celeste, so I don't know why that was, but anyway, I kept trying to change it, and like I would write it on all my school papers and everything, like I insisted that that was my new name. And over time, I guess I started to like it. I don't really remember how. I don't really remember it happening, but eventually I just sort of stopped trying to change it, I guess. And now I actually love my name, like, a lot. I really love it. I feel like it kind of evokes this, like, otherworldly quality that I feel fits me very well. And I also really like the aesthetic of, like, outer space and stars and things like that. Not to say I'm like sciencey enough to feel like I can say I'm into astronomy exactly, but as far as aesthetics and just like casual enjoyment of space and looking at the stars and things like that, that's like my favorite aesthetic. Stars are like my favorite shape and everything, so I really feel like Celeste kind of goes along with that as well. So for that reason, I don't have any desire to change my name, even if other people do think it's feminine. This is my name. This is what I like my name to be, so that's what I'm going to stick with. Moving on to pronouns, which are another common thing that a lot of trans people change or ask people to call them by different pronouns. I currently still go by she, her, and mostly I would say that's for simplicity's sake. I don't feel like it's something, I'm not like super dysphoric about pronouns. So it feels like kind of more trouble than it's worth to try to get everybody to call me by gender neutral pronouns, although I certainly would answer to them, and occasionally I have been called by they, them, and I really appreciated that, but it's not something that I feel like I need, I guess. And I think part of that is because I didn't really feel a big disconnect to my gender, or to my assigned gender, I should say, until I was older. So for most of my childhood, I didn't feel like dysphoric really. There are some things in retrospect that I see kind of were dysphoria, but mostly dysphoria didn't really become an issue for me until like adolescence or so, and so I didn't really have a problem being a girl, and I actually still don't mind being called a girl, but I really do not like being called a woman. I cannot stand it. It makes me feel sick and squirmy and just really awful. It's not a good feeling at all. So I'm used to being called she and her because that's what I was assigned and that's what everybody calls me. And because I don't feel disconnected to that aspect of my gender, I guess, I don't feel like it causes me a problem to be called she or her. I really don't like other gender terms like ma'am or things like that. But as far as just the pronouns themselves, I go by she, her most of the time. So I guess I'm kind of like whatever about pronouns. As long as I know you're talking to me, I don't really care what pronouns you use for me. So I guess for social transition, like as far as those aspects are concerned, I don't really feel the need to change anything right now. I don't know what will happen in the future, but for now, those things I'm just kind of sticking with. Mostly social transition for me has been just coming out and being more vocal about my gender and trying to get people to see me as non-binary, because I think most people that I know probably still kind of think of me as female because that's what they previously knew me as. And definitely people I meet out in public like always think I'm female. Because like I said, I don't really present particularly masculine. I would like to be more neutral presenting, but I feel like until I have top surgery, that's not really an option for me. And yeah, that's stuff I'm probably going to get into more in the physical transition video, which again, I'm not quite ready to do. There's some stuff I think I need to figure out maybe how to talk about and stuff first, but probably also want to make the video about just like my general gender feelings and stuff before that. So I'll hopefully try to do that pretty soon. And but once I do make the physical transition goals video, I will try to link it in the description of this video, so you know whoever comes across this can refer back and forth between them, and maybe eventually look back at my pre-everything transition goals videos and compare them with hopefully a future video where I will have gotten farther on that journey. For example, having my top surgery, which I am working on, still saving for. But yeah, so that about does it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.